Welcome to another episode of Unchained with Pierre Wilson. And man, I am still riding the high of the election. I think we've talked about it the last couple of episodes a bit, but I can't get over it. I'm so excited. I'm so proud of our country and the direction that we're headed. I'm so proud of how hard we fought to get here. It was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from everybody in the conservative movement over years and years to get to this point. We brought on some great guests to kind of talk through it, but I can't be more excited about the next guest that we have. This person is like my big brother. He's been a mentor. He's given me some great advice through the years, and he's a trailblazer in the conservative movement. None other than B. Tatum himself. Welcome, Brandon, to the show.
Thanks for having me, Pierre.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I can't thank you enough for being willing to do it. I think you've been an example for me and so many for so many years of what it takes to grind out and really help change this country for the better. You're relentless and you're bold in your effort, right? You inspire me to be that same way in many ways. I want to kind of chat with you a little bit too, though. Just talk through how you got your start, because I know some people see you today and they see how successful you've gotten in this movement, but I know you had a journey. What kind of encouraged you to start to push towards this side of work? Because you were an officer before, right? So what got you into the conservative world?
Yeah, I think the great question. I think it all started when I was a cop. And then when I was a football player at University of Arizona, that's where it started, because I learned skills, how to work as a team member. I learned how to handle adversity. I got an education. I got exposed to the real world, because I grew up in Fort Worth, Texas, and I had only lived around nothing but black people my whole life. And I had not been outside of Fort Worth and been able to see what the world is like and how people from different parts of the country and parts of the world really experienced the American dream. And so when I got to college, it kind of opened my eyes up. I played football. I ended up becoming a cop after not being drafted in the 2010 draft. And while I was a cop, that opened my eyes to another dimension as well, because the first time I ever started paying taxes, and I realized that I need to vote on something, because ain't no way in the world they taking as much money out of my hard-earned check. And I started to become political. And a lot of the guys on the police department were all conservatives. And at the time, I thought I was a Democrat. And when we went, we would have conversations at SWAT call outs and stuff. And I started to wake up and realize that maybe, just maybe, the Democrat Party is not the party that I actually believe in and the policies that I actually believe in. And so I gave the Republican Party a try, went to a Trump rally, just as an impartial observer. I said, let me just go see who this guy is. I know that I'm going to look at the Republicans this time around. Ben Carson was my favorite. When he dropped out and endorsed Trump, then I said, let me go look at Trump and see if he's serious, because I need to make a decision at a candidate that actually is going to run and can win. I went to the rally and it blew my mind. I mean, I was like, this is one of the greatest events I went to. All of the things that Donald Trump was saying, I agree with. It felt American. I felt a level of freedom, kind of how we all feel today of people who support Trump. I felt the same way at that first rally. I made a video about it, and I wasn't a social media guy. I never did anything on social media. I probably had 100 people that follow my little post, and all I would post is scripture and things about Jesus Christ. And I was too lazy to type out my posts. So I said, let me just make a video and just express the things that I want to say, and then go to sleep, because I had worked the midnight shift and I had got off in the morning. I stayed up, went to the rally, and I was going to go to sleep to get ready for the shift. Video went viral, man. And that was kind of the beginning of everything for me.
It's crazy how God works. Well, when you actually did that video, it went viral, like you said. Was it a lot of backlash that came? I imagine it was, because one of the things I talk about a lot is, even when I got involved, and I got involved a little bit after you, it was nothing like it is today. Like, I remember going on the Shade Room back in the day and trying to fight and argue with people 24/7 about conservative viewpoints. But now I go on there, and don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of ratchet stuff on there and people just talking ignorant. But there's more people on there now that are trying to fight for conservative values than ever before. You log on Facebook, Instagram, all these places, and you see so many Black conservatives making content. But I know we've always had Black conservatives, but I call you a trailblazer for a reason, because I know for a fact when you got involved, it just wasn't as popular as it is today. So I'm sure you faced a lot of backlash. How did you deal with that?
Well, I never cared about what people thought about me to a certain degree. And I've always been that way. And I was like that when I was a when I was an athlete at the University of Arizona and when I was a police officer. And so when I made the video and they came out, I had grown past all of that foolery, right? I mean, I had gotten saved. I was a Christian man. I didn't believe in that racism stuff. I was past all of that. And so somebody criticizing me and saying something negative about me just because I'm expressing a well thought out idea that I didn't just wake up one day and try to believe, or it wasn't a grift. It was a genuine thought pattern that I had come up with given my experience. I couldn't care less, if somebody had a problem with it. But nonetheless, people were outraged.
Yeah.
People at my church turned on me. The church that I had grew up in. When I say grew up in, I got saved at that church. And people were on the internet talking crazy, unfollowing me. I'll never forget Sister Sia. I can't. Sister Sia was the holiest one in the church. She used to speak in tongues and run up the aisle, and I actually like Sister Sia. Because she served in the military, and I was a police officer. And I'm like, hey, Sister Sia is a good candidate. But after I did that Trump video, she lost her mind. She sent me a message. The message is still on my Facebook today. I'm surprised she didn't delete it. It said, "You ain't nothing but an N just like me," and criticized that the white folks really don't care about you. And I don't know why you put your neck out there for the white man. And I was so shocked because I never heard Sister Sia say a single cuss word, let alone throw the N word around. Yeah. And that she wasn't the only one. Dudes I went to school with, people I played sports with at the University of Arizona, all turned on me. But at the end of the day, there was so much love that came my direction. So many people honored or admired the fact that they felt I was bold enough to just say those things that I said and be honest about the situation with Trump. But in reality, I just do what I do. I'm a stubborn person sometimes, and I say whatever I want to say. And if people don't like it, they don't have to listen to me. And so it wasn't that hard for me to come out and just say what I felt, because I always do it. But I do think that God kind of set me up to be a trailblazer along with Candace and others who kind of started this conservative movement in the Black community online. There had already been tons of people doing it before the advent of the explosion of Facebook and live streaming and social media. And I believe that I was a part of that. It wasn't really cool to be a Black conservative. Nobody knew a lot of Black conservatives digitally. And I think the reason my video went so viral, because I was probably one of the first Black men to publicly say something positive about Trump when he ran for office in 2016.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and you and Candace, you mentioned Candace, you guys acted on that, right? Because there's a lot of people who have, we've obviously encountered this in Blexit, and part of what we're trying to do is like mobilize this community to get active once they have that understanding that they actually are conservative. They do hold conservative values. Okay, now that you know that, how can we help other people, right? We want to mobilize you as a leader. But that's essentially what you and Candace did. You guys were the first leaders of Blexit, and you acted on those feelings, and you guys created something that's special and that's still going today. Talk us through kind of how that came about for the audience who don't know how Blexit came about.
Yeah, so funny story. I made the video, it goes viral. I made another video. This was in like 2015, 16. I made another video about Colin Kaepernick, criticizing him for kneeling during the national anthem. And then that went mega viral. I mean, it had 70 million views. Some people say it was over 100 million. I saw 70 million myself. And then that's what led me to leaving the police department and taking a job at a company called Liftable Media. Now, during this period of time when I left, Candace Owens used to be Red Pill Black. And so her social media was Red Pill Black. And so Red Pill Black reached out to me on Twitter. I probably still have the message. And she was like, hey, I love your content. We should collab. I'll be in Phoenix because I live in Phoenix. She said, I'll be in Phoenix flying through. We should go to dinner and talk and see if we vibe. And let's like do this thing. We're kind of like the first two prominent Black conservatives. Let's see if we can make content together. And the craziest thing is, I'm thinking I'm going to meet with Candace Owens, just me and her at a restaurant in Mesa, Arizona. I show up and her whole family is there. So I show up at this table and I'm like, oh my God, her dad and uncles and everybody's there. And it was probably the most fun that I've had. We shut the restaurant down because 3 of us were conservatives and the other 3 on the other side of the table were liberals. And it was reasonable, right? It wasn't any blue head demons on there. But we were going back and forth all night to the point where they had to shut they didn't have to shut the restaurant was closing, and we were debating all the way to the end of that restaurant. And so the restaurant experience. So that's how me and Candace became a lot closer, because obviously we were like brother and sister ever since then. And in, I think, 2018, when we were both working with Turning Point USA, we decided to start Blexit. I mean, it was really Candace's idea, and I was the support for that idea. You know, she came up with it. She wanted to start it. It was in her heart. And I said, what a tremendous idea. You know, I got your back, and I'm going to do this with you. So that's when we started. About 2018, I think, is when we actually officially started. It wasn't as big until 2020, but we started officially in 2018.
Yeah. And I know, you know, when you look at, I know you mentioned the dates, and obviously for those out there, I know this is, for those who don't know, Blexit is a 501c3, so we're not trying to endorse any candidate or anything here, but I think this is important because we speak so much to the values and certain things that are obvious, right? We are very much a conservative leading group. We believe in conservative values and, more importantly, Christian values. But, you know, you look at this election cycle, there's a lot of work to be done in the Black community. That was for sure. You think you look at the Black women, it was like 92% or so voted for Kamala, but there was a shift. We were crunching numbers, the team and I, around Black men, and it was very intriguing. You look at some places like Georgia, some of the other swing states, you're looking at 20, 25%, some higher. I think the national average was sitting around 20+% of Black men. You know, it tells a story that there's still so much work to be done. But we all know, I mean, it takes a small shift in the Black community to really start to cost the left elections. Were you happy to see that number with Black men, in particular, despite the fact that there's more work to be done? Did that give you some sense of feeling like, okay, there's a bright light, there's something we can build on as someone who's been doing this for so long?
Yeah, it was incredible to see. It was highly disappointing to see that the Black women didn't turn the cheek and, you know, come across the aisle, you know, and this is kind of what Blexit was all founded on, is that we just wanted people to have all of the information. That's it. It's not about a political personality and a political party, because, you know, both of them shady, if you ask me, half of the time. So, you know, it's really about opening your eyes and saying, okay, what are the real options that are out there? Let's weed through the propaganda and see what policy positions are each side, you know, holding on to, and how does that affect the community? And that's how Blexit was started. And to see that it has been able to work, especially for young African-American men, was something to behold. And I'll argue this. We're just talking about the poll numbers are showing people who actually voted.
Right.
I would argue there's a ton of people that have woken up and that believe that they're not going to follow the status quo. And many of them are on a more conservative side. They just didn't vote. And so the next step or the next phase in this is not only to get people thinking and get them to be open-minded and studying and understanding what the truth is and how it affects their community, but also to get them to be activated and show up to vote. I do not believe that. I would argue that less than half of all Black people voted in this election that were eligible to vote. And so we got to work on that. And I think those numbers will be far more impressive. What is also impressive is seeing the shift in the conservative movement, seeing how year over year we're migrating, more and more Black men are migrating over to the truth. Hopefully, this was an anomaly given the fact that Kamala Harris was a Black woman, allegedly, and she was an AKA. And so a lot of women kind of, and I would say Black women, felt the connection with Kamala that they wouldn't have felt with Joe Biden or any other candidate that is not identifying as a Black woman, went to Howard, is an AKA. I think that was a anomaly. At least I hope to God it is an anomaly of women showing up for her, even though many of them may have had more conservative values. So it was good to see, but we got a ton of work to do, man. When I look at every other demographic of people, watching the total of Black people in general vote around 80+% for one side. Forget the party. I wouldn't even vote 80% for one side. That's where the problem lies. Everybody else is 50%, 52, 54, 46%. They're all every race is like right in the middle.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the black population is outrageously lopsided to one side. And that's
Yeah.
something I'm hoping that we could change here moving forward.
Yeah, and just to touch on your point too, I think, and I don't, you know me, B too, I don't say this at all because we're afraid of the work or it's too hard. If anything, I think we're built for it. But I do say this because I really believe it. The black community is probably the toughest community to crack for a lot of different reasons and the emotional manipulation that is taking place on the left. And I also say that because I don't. You remember years ago we did the event Back to Blue in DC, and we brought 2,000 plus minorities together. And I think that was the moment. I think Candace and I had a conversation a little bit after that. And we had a good amount of black people out there, right? Majority of the crowd was black, but there was a noticeable amount of Hispanics who were out there. And she had said something to me about, man, this movement is really resonating with Hispanics too. And from that moment, we've also made it a point to do a lot of work in Hispanic communities. And again, even though those communities are not easy either, it's nothing like the black community. It's a different breed. I don't know what it is. I have ideas actually of what it is, but it is certainly a different breed. And I think for me, from my experience, it's the emotional manipulation. I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, the AKA and all this stuff. Even when you present sometimes people with the facts, right? The emotional appeal. And someone said to me, well, black people are naturally like emotional people. We're one of the most emotional groups. And the left plays to that. Democrats played to that really well. And I think that's a part of it. There's other reasons too, but I definitely think that's a huge part of it because they would sometimes, particularly black women in this election, vote against their interests because of the connection they feel because that's their Greek sister or something, right? When you think about it, what sense does that even make, right? Like, how is that going to put more money in your pocket? How is it going to help you in your life, your career, your kids, whatever? None of that helps. The fact that she allegedly is black and was an AKA, it doesn't help. And so I think you were spot on with that.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because the devil knows how to manipulate people, and the manipulation is not on reality and truth, it's on emotionalism and lies. And unfortunately, black people are susceptible to it more so than anybody else. And it could be generational trauma from slavery and Jim Crow and that emotional fury that's because a lot of it is passed down too. Grandma had a terrible experience with white folks, and now grandma telling her grandchildren how the white man is the devil, and that stuff can get matriculated all the way down through generations and generations. It's hard to overcome that. But I'm hoping that we grow past the ignorant, childish behavior and become adults at once upon a time. Because I'll say this, they made a whole campaign. She's a black woman. Vote for the black person. Put the black first black president, black woman president in office. They did all of that. But when you sit down and look at her own decision making and her own personal life, she ain't picked a black person one time. Her husband is white. Her running mate was white. She had an opportunity to pick a black man to marry him. And she also had an opportunity, Miss AKA, she had another opportunity to pick a black man to be her vice president. Who was stopping her? And the whole woman thing. Vote for her because she's a woman. Why did she pick a female VP? Right. If they're champion women, so it's that emotional manipulation that we get caught up in. And to be honest, it's almost like the kryptonite to the black community is the emotionalism. Because, and I would say a better analogy would be, it's one of our strengths that's used against us, because the reason that black people can sing like they sing, I wouldn't even say sing, they sang,
yes,
like they sang. The emotionalism in sports and athletics and the talent that black people have that most people don't have, they just ain't got it. The style, the charisma, all of that comes from a level of deep emotional connection that black people are able to express when it comes to dance, you name it. But then we have this superpower, and that the enemy is looking at it and saying, this is the best way we can also manipulate this group of people and get them to not understand that they're bigger and better than the placated conditions that the media tells them and political pundits are saying. I hope, Pierre, that one day, And I'm not going to be unrealistic about this because I don't think everybody's going to change, right? It's not like I think the whole black community is going to somehow come over the hill, because I don't believe that when it comes to Christianity. Not everybody's going to believe in Christ that you talk to. All you can do is plant the seed and let God give them the experiences, and they have to choose yes or no. But I want to be the seed planters for all of America, but especially the black community, to where when I die one day, I'm gonna be gone out of here, believe it or not. I want to say I planted a lot of seeds. I did my part. I'm not the one that's going to create the increase. I'm not the one that created the dirt and the nutrients and the water and the rainfall and to make it grow. I'm just the one that lay the seeds down like God told me to do. And that's what I want my legacy to be, is that I laid the seed down, and people got to do whatever they're going to do with it.
Yeah. Well, you certainly are doing that, because even with Blexit, we have a lot of people who are coming in after seeing a video from you, right? So, and then we take it and we run with it. We help build those people up and turn them into Blexit leaders. So, but switching gears for a second too, because I want to kind of get your thoughts a little bit about the election and what's going on. So we've been seeing the cabinet picks from Trump, and I'm going to say controversial only because the left thinks they're controversial. Honestly, I don't see anything controversial at all. But what are your thoughts on his cabinet picks? Do you have a favorite? Are you concerned about any of them? Do you think any of them shouldn't receive a nomination? What's your thoughts so far?
No, I think that every single person that he picked, I'm open to give them an opportunity, because if you look at their resumes, I think everybody's qualified, or they have some qualification that lead them to being a decent pick. Now, we don't know what they're going to do because they've never been in this position before. They're not bureaucratic government officials, and with a lifelong experience just really screwing us over in the government. So we don't know what they're going to actually do. But based on Donald Trump's pick of J.D. Vance, it gave me confidence that Donald Trump got his eye, or as you say, his finger on the pulse of how people are going to perform. So, because I thought J.D. Vance was a really questionable pick, given the fact that he called Trump Hitler at some point in time. I was like, why you picked a guy that said the worst things that anybody could have ever said about you?
Right.
But come to find out, J.D. Vance ended up being a part of the saving grace of his administration or his campaign. So I think these candidates are doing good. The controversial thing that I've been hearing, and I wish that we could address this. I'm not trying to be a person that believes in identity politics, but I believe in identifying with politics. And I would like to see more talented Black and Hispanic people being a part of Trump's administration and his cabinet. And the reason I say that is because I know that there's talented people out there, and I want there to be a fair representation of the people who support the conservative movement. Therefore, the world can see that it's not just white people.
Right.
There's a lot of Black people that are very incredibly talented that adds value. There's a lot of Hispanic people that adds value. And I want the best person to be in the position, but I do think that there is a lot of good people, like they like to use, people of color, that I think will add value to this administration. I want to see it, because sometimes visible things changes the minds of people, right? As a young Black man, somebody's telling you, oh, this side is for you, this side is for you. You look on this side, and it's a whole bunch of people that look like you, that come from where you come from or whatever. And you look on this side and you're like, well, y'all say this side is for me, and I don't see a single Black person in that group.
Right.
And so I want us to naturally create the environment where we see more representation.
Well, I agree, by the way, with what you're saying 100%. I look at even what you guys did to bring Blexit in. I've never had a conversation with you guys where we built this to be Black only and no white people allowed, or don't interact with white people, right? But you guys understood the importance of people seeing sometimes, right? Not identity politics, but understanding like, hey, there are people out there who believe in what I believe. And I think when you're talking about Trump's administration, if there weren't any qualified Black people out there, then I would say, yep, just go ahead and pick the best person. But I do believe there are some really good options of Black people who could be picked. So I agree too. I think it would be nice. I have seen that on X. That's the new talking point. I will say the liberals are going to whatever they can go to cope with this loss. So right now, that's the new thing, is that he don't have any Black people in his cabinet, right? They're going to keep finding something, because even if we do put a Black person or a Hispanic person in that cabinet, or he puts one in the cabinet, they're going to come up with something else. So that's the one thing I do know they'll do no matter what. But,
well, yeah, Marco Rubio is technically Hispanic, so
that's true. Yeah,
the person that he put is, I I think the the Secretary of State is a Hispanic guy. You know, he put the first woman in as chief of staff, the first woman in United States history at chief of staff.
She's
So,
the youngest press secretary too, right? Yep. Yeah.
Yep, youngest press secretary in Caroline Levitt. I mean, and he has a lot of picks that he's done that I think are exceptional. And they're gonna try to make the argument, oh, you don't have any black people in the cabinet. Well, you know, to be honest, let's just be honest. Black people got to look in the mirror. It's not a lot of black people to pick from when you look at the broad perspective.
You know, those qualifications, right? Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. A lot of black people tend to be on the other side, and so you got to think of loyalty, and you got to think of people who are in the group, in the circle. Right? There's not a lot of black people with those qualifications in the circle. Go down to the senators. We got one senator. I think Tim Scott is the only black senator out of the entire country. And then you go to House of Representatives. We probably got 3 out of 100-some House of Representatives. I mean, so there's not a lot of black people in conservative politics per se that will be in circles enough to gain the trust of the Trump administration in order to be in this position. And then also there's a lot that are out there that need to stay where they're at, because it's not just enough to say Byron Donalds is a part of Trump's administration. Well, Byron Donalds is doing an incredibly effective job where he's at. Tim Scott is doing an incredible job where he's at. You can't just say every black person in the conservative movement got to come to the White House. It's like, no, some of them need to be out there and need to be continuing to do the work that they've been doing. But I would like to see there be some innovation in that area. And I think it'll come. I mean, even if it's not in the Trump administration, given the fact that Trump has to pick loyalists. He has to. He got burned last time. Omarosa, he brought it to the White House. He said the N-word and wrote a book about it. I mean, you go down the list, these people turned their back on him in many cases. So I think that maybe if we don't see it in Trump's initial administration, I do believe that a Republican is going to be reelected. I think J.D. Vance is a great candidate to be reelected. And then we may see a little bit of a moderate approach and more people come over to the Republican side when a person like J.D. Vance is in control.
Yeah. Because I look at it too, just to add to your point, because I've gotten this question before from people out in the field where they're like, well, there's not really a lot of black congressmen or senators. What's going on with that, right? Because they see a little bit more representation on the other side. But I look at it as you have to start from the ground up. This is why we are doing what we're doing out in the field. In order for there to be black congressmen, you need black conservatives. You got to start there. You got to start helping people understand and see the light, right? Educate them so that they can say, you know what, maybe I do align with the more conservative belief system, right? And then those people may attempt to run for office. When you have 80% of black people voting one way, of course, you're going to see more representation on that side because there's more of a pool to pick from at that point, right? So, you know, you start from the ground up, and I think that's what we're doing. So I think we're on the right track. Now, switching gears a little bit more, but still staying on Trump. Obviously, conservatives are celebrating a lot right now. This is a big win. House, Senate, and the White House is huge, and then we still got the Supreme Court leaning right. But you and I both know, Brandon, we've been doing this long enough that this isn't the end for the Democrats. If anything, they're going to be gearing up for some crazy nonsense or something they're going to be trying to do over the next 4 years. What's your message really to conservatives? Because what I don't want is for us to get lax and celebrating this victory to the point that we're not ready for the next battle, if you will. And do you have any thoughts on what you think the Democrats are going to try to do, and what's your message to conservatives to combat it?
Yeah, my message to conservatives is never forget. I want us to remember the 4 years of hell we didn't went through with them calling us white supremacists and bashing us and trying to put Trump in jail and kill him and all kind of stuff. I want people to never forget this. Because a lot of times when people just say, for instance, you're in a relationship with somebody and they do you dirty, and we oftentimes, because we're good people, we like to forgive them. But I can forgive you and not forget that you're a dirty dog. Yeah. So we can forgive them for what they've done to us, but we cannot forget, to the extent where we got to keep our foot on the gas to never let this happen again. I think our mission shouldn't be to win an election. Our mission should be that they never get power again, ever. And in this sense, we have the ability to do that for an extended period of time. If they were honest people and they were good and they weren't trying to do nefarious things to the American people, they would have gotten 2 terms of Donald J. Trump, and that would have been over. We wouldn't have had the House and Senate. It would have been over. But since they wanted to cheat and do nefarious things, Now they're going to have 12 more years of a Republican because I believe that Donald Trump is going to do his 4 years and the next Republican is going to do 2 terms. I can't see it changing. Clarence Thomas is going to retire and they're going to get another conservative in there that's younger. That's another Republican conservative that's young. They can be in the Supreme Court for the next, I don't know, 40, 50 years. And then if we get another Republican in after Trump for 2 terms, I mean, some of these Democrats on the Supreme Court has to retire at some point. Right. And then we're going to put more conservatives on the Supreme Court. So we have an ability of a lifetime to change the trajectory of America forever. And I think that's what conservatives need to focus on. Yes, bask in the success, in the victory. The air seems a little lighter and cooler, and it's cleaner now that, you know, that we got a person in office that actually has some competence. And he's not even in office yet. Right. But the world just feels better knowing that he's on his way and he's picking his team, and I'm excited about it. But we can't let off the gas, man. We can celebrate, pat each other on the back like we did in football. On a Saturday when you win the game, we celebrate. We celebrate that night. Sunday we recover. Monday is game time. Right. We're watching film again. We can prepare for the next opponent. No, you can't look at the past. You can't look at the future. You got to look at the right now. And right now we need to kick their behinds. And we can take the level of success right now. This is it's starting to become Sunday. Saturday night is over. We didn't partied and had fun after the victory. We need to recover a little bit, and we have to go after the midterms because this is where most administrations lose. The House and Senate is in the midterm. Barack Obama did it. Donald Trump did it in his second in the midterm. So if we can keep the midterm strong, I think the American people are going to see successes like we never seen before.
Who do you think the Democrats are going to run in 2028?
It's a hard sell, man, because all of the ones that have been incredibly popular have gone so far left, and America just rejected that theology. So you got people like Gavin Newsom, who's a snake oil salesman from the pit of you know where. They got the dude Shapiro from Pennsylvania. He's the governor, I think the governor of Pennsylvania. Gretchen Whitmer is too far left. She's a favorite, but she's so far left. These people are radical transgender activists, and people don't want that in America. They want the economy to be good. These people want the Green New Deal and all that stuff. So I think they're going to have a big struggle to really get a competitive person in place that's not with the woke stuff. I heard AOC took her pronouns out of her bio.
I saw that too.
How ridiculous is that? You now want to change. You turn into a chameleon to try to fit the mold. We ain't gonna forget about you leftist lunatics that tried to drive us into a ditch somewhere. So we're gonna remember you guys, but I think they're gonna have a hard time putting somebody up. They will find people, but the conservative side has a dream team full of people.
Yes, we do.
I think Byron Donalds will be good to run for president. I think there's so many diverse voices that can make an incredible difference when the Republicans come up for, to run, to do the presidency thing again. And I think that we're going to sweep them on the rug. If Donald Trump could win, now he's incredibly famous and popular, but literally he was impeached twice.
Yep.
They literally indicted him on 400,000 different things. They tried to kill him twice. Accusations of him messing with women and doing all this stuff. They drugged that man's name through the mud. They called him Hitler every other sentence. They made up lies. They've done it all to Donald Trump, man. I mean, literally missed him right here on the ear. Everything but kill the man. And they tried that, but they failed. And he still won. And one of the biggest victories in Republican history. Just imagine after his administration has been successful and people have seen their income come back, and then you have somebody who can actually articulate themselves in a clear way without, the brashness of Donald Trump. I think the American people are going to be so sold on the conservative theology that if the people on the other side, the left, they're going to have to come closer to the middle or they will never win an election again.
Yeah. I mean, you said it best, and I look at everything that they put this man through, and like you said, they could have he could have been reelected and they would have been done. But instead, they decided to go the other route, and they're paying the price for it now, because what they saw is not just an electoral victory, but a popular vote victory. And I think that's honestly what they might be struggling with the most, is the amount of votes that this man got. And they just are in disbelief, shock. I think they don't know what to do with themselves. They're trying to figure out, how did this happen? And we're not shocked. People like you and me are not shocked, because we knew that he tapped into something that I don't think any politician on any side had tapped into. And that is just really the love for this country, feeling proud to be American. People, I want to believe that people are not naturally set up to just be angry all the time, right? And we want to, we feel it's a sense of joy. He's brought a sense of joy back, and I think that's why the air feels lighter. And somebody said the air feels cheaper too, but it feels cheaper in there. But this is why, and I think people are proud to be Americans, be patriots. So, but Brandon, it's been a pleasure. What's next for you as we wrap up? What's next? How do you continue to contribute to the movement? What you got in store?
Well, I'm just trying to let God use me, man. And every day that I wake up, I want to maximize what he has given me. I think a lot of times we get complacent. We get up, we take it for granted. I want to acknowledge the fact that God has given me another chance. Every time I wake up, I'm like, he could have took me. He could have took me here, could have brought me there, could have left me here. But he woke me up this morning. What am I doing to be the best version of myself, and how can I make an impact in the world? Because to be honest, my impact is not just limited to the conservative theology and the conservative movement in politics. I want to be an impact around the world to everybody. I mean, even outside of the context of politics, I want to give more than I've ever given. I want to support and serve people like I've never served before. And I want to maximize who I am. And that involves working out, going to the gym. Like I was doing the cold plunge today, and it's brutal. But I want to not only be intelligent, but I want to maximize the vessel that God has given me, so I can be a better example for people. Like it's a conglomerate of things that I think is invaluable to do. And I run a company with about 20 people. I think now we're probably up to about 20 employees if you add some of the people downstairs that doing the warehouse. I want to be a better leader for them. I want to give people raises, and I want this business to grow to an astronomical level. And that's kind of what my perspective is to be so well-rounded. It's not just politics. It's not just social media, but being a businessman, being an entrepreneur, being a family man. My oldest son is now living with me. Praise be to God. And I want to make sure that he's getting the opportunities that he needs to be a successful young man. And so it's a big thing. It's a lot going on in the Tatum sphere, but the most important thing is to be a servant. And that's what my goal is, to be a servant for the Lord and just let him lead me where he wants me to go.
Amen. Well, look, if I know one thing about you, I know you'll accomplish everything you want. You've been one of the hardest workers I know, and I think you've pushed the boundaries way past what people said the boundaries were. And I followed your rise, and I see you even pushing out of the political world into other things. I think I watched the video you were speaking in a church. It was a little while back, but I'm just watching your rise and where God is taking you, and we're all rooting for you, Brandon. So appreciate you being on.
I appreciate you, man, and I'm very proud of you, Pierre. You already know it. I can spend the next 30 minutes bragging on you, but I pray that God bless you and continue in your success and your family. You're a good husband, good man, and I'm very proud of you too, man. So the feeling is mutual.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Brandon.
All right.
So, as you kind of heard Brandon's story, I know so many of you guys know Brandon and as B Tatum, as the one you see on your Instagram feed or Twitter, TikTok, wherever you follow him on social media. But there's so much more, right, to his story. And what you heard is how much work he put in. And there was a moment, where he stepped out boldly and said, you know what, I feel like my values are actually conservative. I feel like I'm not voting the way that I should be. I want to stand stronger for the King, for Christ, right? Despite the pushback, despite everything that he faced, you talk about his church, and he talked about people in his church and friends and whatnot turning against him, but he didn't waver. He kept going, and I think that's the message. Amongst other things he said today that I want to really make sure that I hit home with you guys. He broke chains, ultimately, and every guest that comes on this show, if you're paying attention and noticing a trend, is that everybody has a story. Everybody has broken some types of change. So if you're in a position right now where, again, you're worried about what your family or friends or someone might say, or you're feeling called by Christ to do more, answer that call. It may not always be easy. I won't promise you that the road won't be rocky, because it probably will be a bit rocky. But these people who are coming on, some of the most successful people, Brandon being one of the most successful we've talked to, is proof that you can do it. There is a start, but there is also a journey, and you have to trust God to take you down that road and know that He's going to take care of you. Until next time, you guys.